Mr. Happy Living here, and I'm happy to be broadcasting from WITV7 in the beautiful Queen City, Charlotte, North Carolina, USA. Hey, friends, join me for just a minute and imagine how awesome you'd feel living the unique and distinct life you were put on this planet to live, doing work you love, with people you love, in places you love, and all the while creating something of real value to others. That's what I call a life of significance. And I can tell you, it makes a very happy life. And so can Paul Kolterman. He's my guest star today, and he's here to share his unique and distinct journey to his life of significance. Hey, Paul, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you.
We're excited to have you here. Why don't you get us started by telling us what you're doing these days to make your mark of significance on the world?
Well, about 5 years ago, I decided to throw in the towel with the thing called work. You know, that's a four-letter word, work. And so I gave it up and I moved to Florida with my wife, Charlene. We have a son down here, grandkids, daughter-in-law. And I always wanted to have a farm. And so we bought a little farm, like 47 acres. And it's in hay production. And then we got some cattle and some goats. And we started selling hay, and that's what we're doing.
And Paul, had you ever farmed before?
I was a hired man when I was a kid, and worked for a guy growing up through high school and college, and then farmed a little bit with my in-laws, but that was 40 years ago.
Wow, that's great. And then tell us a little bit about the types of cattle that you have and the types of goats that you have.
We have registered Nigerian Dwarf dairy goats. We raise them for breeding stock. And so we sell breeding stock. It's actually gone all over the United States and Puerto Rico. We've had goats go to Puerto Rico, Michigan, Iowa, California, different places in the U.S. And we also have Aberdeen, registered Aberdeen livestock. They're an Angus breed, smaller. They're a smaller breed of Angus, basically, but they're called Aberdeens, American Aberdeens, originated in Scotland. And we have about 30 head of those. And then we raise coastal Bermuda hay and sell that and feed that to our livestock.
Very good. And then if you can, just in 30 seconds or a minute or so, tell the audience about this elaborate fencing system you have that you can move your cattle all around and keep the dudes separated from the ladies, and tell us about that system.
Well, I basically built a T like a cross, and those are alleyways. The cross part would, if you think of a cross, and the outside edges of a cross would be the alleyways. And so that's built through the middle of the farm, the cross. And then I can move cattle up and down this cross either way with 4 gates in the middle of the cross that act as the place where they can go in and out. And that way I can do all of it by myself. I can move them all from one end to the other. Of course, they're tame like black labs, so it helps.
It does help. Speaking of black labs, what role does your dog play on the farm?
Well, I
have
two dogs. One's a black lab or a chocolate lab, and then the other one is a livestock guardian dog. And her name is Honey Bear, and she's huge. Her breed is Karaka-chan, and she's from Bulgaria. She's a Bulgarian shepherd, and she just protects the livestock and lets us know when people or animals are around.
How big is huge?
125, 130 pounds.
Wow. That's great. All right, Paul, a recent guest on your farm wrote this. He says, Paul met us at the entrance of the property to tell us where to park. We had a tour of the cows and the goats, very interested by my dog, she wrote. He also remembered me to, recommended me to other harvest hosts on my way west. I did not seem to hear the cows when I was sleeping. An amazing experience. Thank you. So Paul, tell us exactly what is Harvest Hosts and how have you incorporated it into your farm? And what does it mean when you have a guest that has a wonderful experience during a visit with you?
Well, Harvest Host is just a website that people can join, and it's a very low cost. And then they communicate with wineries, breweries, farms, a lot of farms, blueberry farms, whatever, strawberry farms. And then people can set up a time to come and stay all night, one night. And then people sell them like blueberries or whatever, mushroom farms sell mushrooms. People can buy something from them, and that sort of pays the way for the farmer to let them stay there for a night. And it's supposed to be a one night gig. Okay. That's what Harvest Host is. And then we don't sell anything. So we ask people if they just give us a little donation to help buy feed for the cattle or cubes or treats for the goats or whatever. Yeah. And it works out pretty good. And I always give everybody a little tour on my gator, my John Deere gator, or sometimes we just go for a long walk and they get to feed the baby calves, and they get to pet a goat or feed a bottle baby goat or something of that nature.
Very good. All right, Paul, let's move on and do a little mathematics with our friends all around the world so they can get to know you through our happy formula. It's a simple but very powerful equation that goes like this: power plus purpose equals happy. So let's start with power. What are your personal practices for building up the power you need to get things done, whether it's physically, mentally, spiritually, financially, emotionally? In other words, Paul, what do you do on a regular basis to create all the power you need to take really good care of yourself and your loved ones and still have plenty left over so you can be a giver to others?
Well, to me, I thought about this. The two most important things to me are attitude and faith. And I put faith at the back because it holds everything else up. So if you wake up every morning and you have a good attitude, your power level will be higher. You get those mornings where you're like, I really don't want to get out of bed. You have to get out of bed. Okay. So it's a mindset, and that mindset is around your attitude. And then faith, my favorite verse in the Bible is in Matthew 6, 19 to 38 or somewhere in there, 34. It talks about your treasures on earth, and it talks about not storing up treasures on earth, but your treasures in heaven. And then do not worry is the second part of that. Is don't worry, the birds are not taken care of, the grass is taken care of, the flowers are taken care of. So why are you worried? And so I like to think of that part of life. Don't worry about things, okay? And then your life goes better and you get power if you don't have to worry about things.
It's really true. I mean, most of the things that we worry about are things that aren't things yet, right? It's something we think Correct. Might happen, and Correct. Often it doesn't happen. So we've just wasted that moment with God. And actually, I read this the other day. Let me ask you about it. It says the present moment, living in the present moment, is when our time intersects all of eternity. And so if we're worried, we're not actually living in the present moment. But when we're in the present moment, then that's where we are with all of eternity, which I think is God.
That's cool.
Yeah.
The other thing, I like to keep an open mind. I had a friend that used to tell me, he'd say, minds are like parachutes. They only work when they're open.
Good.
And I like that.
Yeah, that's good. All right, Paul, let's dive into, you talked about state of mind. My favorite power generating concept is called a Kaizen state of mind. And it's this beautiful Japanese idea that small incremental improvements add up over time to yield great big results. And I love it because it's based on mindset, not circumstance. So Kaizening life is knowing there's always something I can do better tomorrow than today. It creates this optimistic, gentle, but powerful and continuous uplifting of my life day after day after day. So Paul, how does Kaizening your life help you increase your personal capacity to continuously become more so you can continuously give more?
Well, I think for me, it goes back to having a plan. Okay. Every day I have a plan. And so you talk about the small incremental things growing into a bigger thing. Well, if you have a plan and you follow your plan every day, get something done. I mean, get up in the morning and have this plan and go do it and implement it. And then you can lay in bed and go, well, how did that go? Well, went well, or it didn't go well, or whatever. But have a plan. And then there's the second part of that is goals. So you have your short-term plan, or your short-term goals, and your long-term goals, and think about what it is you want to accomplish, short-term and long-term. And if you execute your short-term plans, your long-term plans will fall into place. It's always happened, and it will happen because you're doing those things, those actions to fulfill the short-term plans, and it makes your long-term plans come true.
Yeah, that's very well said. And the short-term plans, that's all the little Kaizening stuff going on that's taking a great big result. All right, so let's move on to purpose. That's the second element of the happy formula. And Paul, I've observed that the big major life transformations and discovery of purpose often come from devastation. Addiction, abuse, disease, death, disaster, some awful thing strips a life to its core, resulting in some big change. However, in my book, Turning Inspiration into Action, I share the transformational process that I've used to discover my purpose using inspiration. So how about you, Paul? Was there a specific moment or event or crisis or inspiration that revealed to you the purpose you were meant to live?
Yeah, I thought about that, and I think that what I settled in on in 1974, I was 17 years old. I was between my junior and senior year in high school, and I'd been planning a bicycle trip from Nebraska to Yellowstone National Park on a 10-speed bike. And I planned this for a year or so. And I had other people going with me, and they backed out. And so I ended up going anyway, solo, 23 days, 1,600 miles across Wyoming, through Yellowstone, back down across Wyoming. I went across the Snowy Mountain Range. I went down to up to Estes Park, Colorado. And I was gone 23 days, 1,600 miles by myself, sleeping on the ground, and basically on a 10-speed bicycle. And I was just a kid, and it was something my parents didn't want to really let me do, but they did let me do. And it changed my life because it taught me that I could be self-sufficient and that you can overcome obstacles. Okay. And resilience and all those things.
Yeah.
And it did change my life, man. It did.
That's awesome. You gave me goosebumps just telling me that story. That is really awesome. And
so I could spend 3 days telling you that story.
That's good. And how important was it that your friends backed out and you were put in that decision-making mode to decide whether to back out or not? How important was that in the big life lesson?
Well, my mom said I wasn't going, but my dad took my side and said it would be good for him. So I was never not going.
Good stuff.
My mom said I wasn't, but
yeah,
it was okay.
Yeah. So one more thing then, how about what was another big change in your life, moving from Nebraska to Florida 5 years ago? What was the ultimate catalyst for that change in geography, but also the huge change in lifestyle?
Well, my wife was sick and tired of winter, and she was tired of the freezing cold, and she only weighs 100 pounds. And so when she goes outside, she gets cold pretty fast. And she said, I'm just tired of winter. I love the weather down there in Central Florida, and the kids are down there. We have another son in South Dakota, but she goes, let's move to Florida. I want to retire there. And I said, well, let's do it early. And that was a big step. And then buying a farm was a big step.
Yeah.
But yeah, something we always wanted to do.
And how exciting is it to be waking up on your farm 5 years into it now and continuing just to keep tweaking the operation and improving the operation and growing the business? How are you feeling now about your move?
Well, I love it. And there's some things like I never had ran a John Deere baler for 30 or 40 years. I had to relearn all that. I bought tractors, had to kind of relearn some of that. I planted some new hay fields, which I'd never done. I've never put in Bermuda hay. I'd never done any of that. And so I just rolled the dice and did it, and so it worked out. You learn. And I've made mistakes and I've learned from those mistakes. But you never quit learning, even at 66 years old.
That's it. I hope you're listening to that, folks. You never, ever stop learning. Well, you can, but then your life just slowly goes away. And if you don't, you look like Paul with that great big smile on his face. So wonderful, Paul. Let's take a quick commercial break for our sponsor to spread a little love with our audience. Happy is an intentional and lifelong journey, but it's hard to change and grow towards higher levels of happy without knowing where you're starting from. Our Happy Quiz puts a starting pin on the map to your happy living and provides additional guidance and motivation along the way. Just go to happyliving.com and take the Happy Quiz to get started on your road to happy. And we're back, and this is the Something Significant Show, and I'm your host, Matt Gersper. And my special guest star today is Paul Kolterman. After a successful career working in big agriculture with Land O'Lakes and Winfield United, Paul moved across the country from Nebraska to Florida to own and operate a beautiful working farm consisting of Aberdeen Angus Cattle, Nigerian Dwarf Goats, and Bermuda Hay Production. It's all situated 38 miles north of Orlando and about an hour from New Smyrna Beach. And it's a favorite host destination for RVers traveling through the area. And I certainly agree, Paul. I loved my visit with you on the farm.
Well, thank you.
And I think you're going to love this article I found on livescience.com. It's called The Science Behind the Power of Giving. And it says the act of giving itself can be a gateway for discovering your reason for being on the planet. It tells how science supports the idea that giving one's time and talents and treasure is a powerful pathway for discovering purpose and overcoming difficulties and finding fulfillment and meaning in life. So I updated our formula. Power plus purpose plus giving equals really happy. So what do you think, Paul? Has giving your time and your talents and your treasure been a pathway for discovering your purpose and for getting past difficulties that you've faced and for bringing real meaning into your life?
Well, that's a good one because, I'm the head of stewardship at church, and that's not all about giving money. That's about time, talents, whether you can sing in the choir, whether you can help take the collection, whether you can help homeless people, whatever it is, Yep. It's of giving your time and talents, okay? And so I look at it, what we have is not ours. God, it's all God's, and He gave it to us in the first place. And when we leave this earth, we're not going to have anything anyway. So giving is really important. I'll tell you a story. We had a couple pastors at my former church that wanted to go to Africa on a mission trip, and they didn't have the money to go. And so I bought 2 airline tickets and to Africa. And my wife said, well, how are we going to pay for that? And I said, well, I'm going to sell a couple canoes and then I'll just pay off my credit card. And that's exactly what we did. Mm-hmm. And it's such a good feeling. And we wanted to build a daycare at our former church. And we needed a couple $1 million. And we built a 80-kid daycare. And I was on the committee to help get that accomplished. And a lot of naysayers are, oh, what do we need a daycare for? Well, we did. Okay, it's a mission, okay, to bring people to Christ and take care of their kids. And so, giving of your time and talents is important.
That's great. And science tells us that giving to others helps bring real meaning to our lives. And I couldn't agree more. It's that feeling that comes from the fourth element of significance, as we define it, doing work that creates real value for others. Because as you've been talking about, the magic of life comes not from getting more, but from giving more. But there's something more to it than that, Paul, that I've been discovering. It's not just the giving that's magical. What I've discovered is it's when you're giving from living in your purpose. That's where you find the real magic. So the audience and I would like to experience how it makes you feel to be happily living your life and giving to others through the work you were put on this planet to do. And so many people all around you have taken notice. Paul, just sit back, open your heart, and just listen to what people are saying about the impact you're making on their lives by finding and living that magic in your life. One person told me, Paul Kolterman has always been a hardworking man and just an overall great guy. Another wrote, I've known Paul for over 25 years. He always viewed the business he was doing with his customers was really just like helping his friends get done what their businesses needed using the products his company had to offer. Another said, Paul is an interesting man with legendary life experience, including an epic canoe trip in Canada in the tundra area. He's kind, he's friendly, and welcoming. We enjoyed our tour of his farm. Paul waited for me to get there so I could help feed the cows and bulls. What a bonus. I also snuggled several tiny baby goats. The farm fresh breeze was amazing. I felt completely at home. Another says, what we thought would be an ordinary overnight stay turned into a fun tour of a well-run and picturesque cattle farm, personally escorted by the owner, Paul. The Angus and Aberdeen cows and dozens of small goats were a treat to see, and we even hand-fed some calves. Paul takes excellent care of his animals, lots of fresh water, fresh hay, and large pens for the goats, and he loves to feed them treats by hand with help from everyone who visits. His dog Honey Bear is beautiful. Indigo Ridge Farms is one of the more scenic harvest host overnights we've had. Beautiful sunset pictures, very peaceful stay. I stayed on his farm with my wife. It's a combination of interesting mid-Florida farm vibe with a variety of different farm animals and high quality meat. And then they put in parentheses, in my humble opinion, better than Longhorn steak. I highly recommend visiting his amazing farm. You should come and stay here a couple of nights. It'll reshape and even deepen your understanding about Florida and many other things. Paul's a unique character. He's very driven, but yet notices the little things in life that show his true compassion for life and people and what's really important. Paul is very passionate. It's energizing. And finally, your son wrote, 5 years ago on September 6th, my dad, quote, retired. I'm proud of his accomplishments in his career and how passionate he was to help people. He told me something I use every day in business, and that's to build relationships with people. So, Paul, what does it mean to you to hear the impact you're making on the lives of others by finding that magic of living in your purpose?
Well, it's a little overwhelming, but it goes back to that attitude and faith, okay? Solo Deo Gloria, you know what that means?
No.
To God be the glory.
Yeah.
That's what that means. So it's Latin, you know. And it's on my sign at the farm. Soli Deo Gloria. So that's what I got to say. To God be the glory on all that. You know, one of the last things, or one of the things I wanted to share too, is you know, people get to feeling bad and sorry for themselves and all that, and even once in a while that happens to be. So if you're ever down and out, just read the book of Job and then think about how he had it, and maybe you won't feel quite so bad when you're done.
That's good. And you know, that reminds me of one of my favorite quotes. It's your day belongs to another's dream. And that's what you just said, right? If you compare it to Job, Job would trade places with you at his low moments in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
And so the other thing I think when you're feeling down is you can just give something to someone, a smile, a hug, anything. And that's what this show is all about, is it's that finding that magic in each of our lives so you can live your life on fire. And it's available for each of us. At least that's what I believe. And it comes from the go ahead.
Well, what's cool about that is, you know, when people come here, I want them to leave having a good experience with livestock, whether it's a goat or a cow, or understanding production agriculture, because there's very few people understand farming, and it's important for me that they have a good feeling about how animals are being taken care of and how the farm is operated, and they leave with a smile on their face, and that was kind of cool because it changes their attitude about things.
Yeah. Yeah. That's very good. So, so let's just wrap this part up, Paul, with this idea of giving to others and finding that magic in your life. It comes from this big happy circle. I want to see how you think about this. Giving your time and talents and treasures is a powerful pathway for discovering your purpose. And giving from living in your purpose, as you're doing, brings a profound joy to your life, but also to the lives of those around you, as we just went through. So giving leads to purpose, and giving from purpose leads to joy. So to more properly capture the exponential power of our happy formula, Paul, let me tweak it just a bit more. Power times purpose times giving equals happy to the third power. And that's really, truly, deeply happy. Does that sound about right to you?
That would be happy, 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 happy. That's a lot of happies. Happy to the third power.
A lot of happies.
That's a lot of happies.
Very good. Yeah. All right, let's wrap things up with the lightning round. I love the power of words and the capacity of really great quotes to change lives. So I'm going to read a few of my favorites and have you tell us what they mean to you. Give us the first thing that comes to your mind, Paul, because we call this a lightning round. Here we go. This one, I think the author's unknown, but some smart person once said, good steaks are like good men. The best ones have a little fat on them.
Well, that goes back to marbling. You got to have marbling if you're going to eat well. And fat people are happy people, by the way.
Very good. All right, this is a little long, but I want you to listen to this one from Naomi Long Madgett. And she says, I wouldn't coax the plant if I were you. Such watchful nurturing may do it harm. Let the soil rest from so much digging and wait until it's dry before you water it. The leaf is inclined to find its own direction. Give it a chance to seek the sunlight for itself. Much growth is stunted by too careful prodding, too eager tenderness. The things we love, we have to learn to leave alone.
Kind of like raising a child. That's what I thought of. Kind of like raising a child. You have to raise him, but you also have to leave him alone.
Yeah. Yeah. Good, good. This is from Leonardo da Vinci. He said, while I thought I was learning how to live, I have been learning how to die.
Well, I suppose the older you get, the more you think about that one, right? That's what I think he's talking about. Given over time, your life over time, the more you live, the more you think about, there's a finality to it.
Very good. From Hemingway. It's good to have an end to journey toward, but it's the journey that matters in the end.
Well, the journey's the fun part. I think that's what he's talking about. I've been to his house, by the way.
Have you?
Yeah, down in Key West. It's really a neat place.
Yeah, my dad used to do traveling. He's a soil scientist. He used to travel over to Cuba, and back in his teaching days. And he has a beard, and he actually kind of has a look like Papa Hemingway, and that was it. They nicknamed him over in Cuba Papa. So he got to see some of Hemingway's haunts when he was there. Here's one from Jack London. The proper function of a man is to live, not to exist. I shall not waste my days in trying to prolong them. I shall use my time.
First thing that comes to my mind, he's a smart guy. He's going to use his time. He had the right attitude, didn't he? He woke up with the right attitude.
Woke up and got out of bed. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, he woke up with the right attitude.
Good stuff. And then this is the show anchor from Goff. He said, whatever you can do or dream you can do, begin it. Boldness has genius, power, and magic in it. Begin it now.
That means don't wait. I spray painted some letters down in my barn. Now, you never saw them, but there's some letters up in the rafters. And the only people that look up can see them. It says, live your dreams. And this isn't in little letters. This is big letters. And that doesn't mean wait till tomorrow.
Right.
That's what I thought of. Live your dreams.
Live your dreams. That's awesome. Okay, folks, now it's your chance to be a giver too. If you can hear my voice and you were inspired by today's show with Paul Kolterman, won't you please share a little love with our amazing broadcast team by giving what you can to WITV7. They're a 501c3 charity on a mission to educate, empower, and encourage. They do good works with your kindness. Paul, I love that you had the courage to make a great big transformation from Seward, Nebraska to Grand Island, Florida. And I admire the love you have for your goats and your cattle and farm, and for sharing the entire experience with anyone who comes to visit. And I'm super happy that you shared your passion and enthusiasm for life on our show today. Will you please take a minute or two and share any parting remarks you'd like to leave with our audience?
Well, my parting remarks are the goats are hungry, the cattle need fed, and I need a shower after all that. And I have somebody coming, and I got to get ready for them today. Thanks for having me. Thanks for having me, Matt. I don't really have a lot more to say. Thank you.
You're welcome. And I also want to thank WITV7 for hosting and promoting our show so we can keep interviewing inspiring guest stars like Paul and reaching folks just like you ready to create your own extraordinary lives. And most especially, thank you, viewers and listeners. You'll find links to social media and all things Paul Kolterman. Find him, friend him, see his, how many billion pictures do you have there?
6.3, I think it was.
6.3 billion pictures. You can find him on Facebook at paul.kolterman. That's PAUL.KOLTERMAN. One more time, on Facebook, go to paul.kolterman. From me to you, dear friends, I love you, and I want you to be really, truly, deeply happy too. So go to happyliving.com right now and take our happy quiz, because measuring your happy helps you focus attention on it, and focusing attention on it attracts change and learning and improvement, all to flow right into your life. And once you take the quiz, and it only takes a minute, then please give some thought to what we can do together, you and me, to improve the happy of your life, one person at a time. Till next time, I'm Matt Gersper. You are awesome, and this is the Something Significant Show.